Today take a look at chapter 46 of the book of Genesis. We're getting now towards the end of the amazing story of Joseph and his brothers and their father Jacob. And at this point in the story, the brothers are convinced now, finally, that Joseph, their brother, is alive. He's well. He has been in Egypt, and he's been in Egypt pretty much by the hand of God. That this design of God, this plan of God that's always so mysterious and that unfolds in so many different ways, has unfolded now in the life of Joseph. And so at this point in the story, Jacob, also known as Israel, is setting out for Egypt with all his belongings. He's finally convinced that this is the right thing to do. He'd been a little apprehensive about this at first, but then when he saw the wagons, and the wagons were loaded with all those gifts, he knew that this must be something special. It must be from Egypt. It must be initiated by Joseph. And so he accepted this, and he's eager now to be reunited with Joseph, whom he had thought for all these years was dead. Now he's alive. He's excited about that. So he travels to Beersheba, and at Beersheba he offers a sacrifice to God. And this is a great source of continuity in the scriptures because who offered sacrifice first at Beersheba was Isaac. And so Jacob is continuing in the spirit of his father, Isaac. He's continuing to show his priority is God and his covenant relationship with God. And so he's going to Egypt, but he's doing so with God. He's doing so because of God. He's acknowledging the importance of God in his life. And while he's there offering that sacrifice, he has a vision. And in this vision, God says to him, Jacob, Israel, this is the right thing to do. Reaffirms the choice. And so Jacob, Israel, is going to go in peace. God also tells Jacob that God will bring him back to this land. Very important, because the land had been promised to Abraham and to his descendants. So it was a special land, and the fact that he's leaving and going to Egypt, that's just a temporary thing. That is not a forever aspect of that relationship. It is temporary. Jacob realizes it's temporary. God tells him it's temporary. God reaffirms the fact that this is your land. This is your land, this special land. You have a special relationship with this land. I made a promise. I will continue that promise. So Jacob then goes to Egypt, and he goes to Egypt with his whole family and with all his possessions. And all of the different family members are listed. All of the different sons from the different wives, they're all listed. And that total number comes to 70. Very symbolic number, of course, because 7 was the Hebrew number of perfection. So 10 times 7 is perfection, perfection, perfection. It's like the ultimate. So 70, very important number. Some commentators say, well, maybe it's just a symbolic number because when you count up all of the people, it only comes to 68. And others will say, well, you've got to include Jacob and Joseph, so that rounds it out to 70. So go back and forth with that. But the number 70, very important. It shows the whole family is going. It shows the importance of family. And of course, the transition now from family to nation. This is now the point in the story where nation is going to become important. So this number 70 representing perfection. We see this number 70 many times in the scriptures, both in the Hebrew scriptures and Christian scriptures. So 70, very important number. Also, very interesting here, Jacob sends Judah ahead to meet Joseph, to let him know that the family was coming. Very important, right? Because it was Judah who was the one who was responsible for selling Joseph to the Midianites, the Ishmaelites. And so Judah going ahead now to make this connection with Joseph, again, a sign of the healing that is happening within the family. So Judah, very important role, and we're also going to see the prominence in the scriptures of the role of Judah, very much with David and the whole continuity of the promise through King David of the tribe of Judah. Joseph, after he's greeted by Judah and he's alerted to the fact the family is coming, he goes out to Goshen, where the family is going to be staying, and he meets his father in, again, another one of these beautiful, very moving, emotional scenes in the Joseph story, and he weeps in his arms, finally back with my father. Probably at one point thought he would never ever see his father again, right? But now he's reunited, the land of Egypt, Goshen, the northern part of the Nile Delta, so a land that would have been good for grazing. And of course, the tribe of Jacob they're bringing all their animals for grazing, so very important, good grazing land. Jacob then says, "Now I can die, since I have seen that Joseph is alive." So he talks about the fact that his own death is probably imminent. He's older now, doesn't know exactly when. He's going to be here now for a number of years, but he's realizing now that his life is getting towards the end point, doesn't have the vigor that he used to have, but he's happy. Happy because he's reunited with Joseph, great love for Joseph, great love for Benjamin, two sons from Rachel, so very important scene here. And Jacob said, this is good now. My life is complete. It's full. I've seen Joseph. What more? This is wonderful. This is great. Joseph then told his brothers to tell Pharaoh to say that we were shepherds. Shepherds were really not liked by the Egyptians. They were more farmers around the Nile. So they're to tell them they're shepherds. And again, that would be partly to protect them from the Egyptians. And partly, of course, the deeper meaning of the shepherds, right? The shepherd of the flock. And we're going to see this imagery portrayed very much in both the Hebrew and Christian scriptures, the importance of the shepherd keeping the flock together, the shepherd who lays down his life for the sheep, very important. The Lord is my shepherd, God compared to a shepherd. So this idea of them being shepherds, very important. Now, what do we learn? What do we decipher here from chapter 46? Certainly, we decipher, first of all, the importance of the covenant. There will be a return to the promised land. We're not going to be in Egypt forever. God is going to bring us back. So again, the centrality of the covenant, the importance of that covenant theme. The covenant was made with Abraham. It was reaffirmed in Isaac, now through Jacob, now through his sons, who are going to become the 12 tribes of Israel. Very, very important, the covenant. Also, the importance of the connection with Isaac. The same place where Isaac offered sacrifice to God, Jacob is offering sacrifice to God. Again, that continuity, that sense of all of these wonderful people who are reaffirming the covenant, keeping in sync with one another. So beautiful sense there of that continuity. Also the idea that who is directing the show? God is directing it. God is directing Jacob. God had directed Joseph. It had seemed like kind of a crazy situation with Joseph being sold. They're thinking he's dead. You're never going to see him again. But God was working in the whole situation. The sense of the importance of God, the importance of our relationship with God, extremely important. Also, the importance of the number 70, that number of perfection, which is brought out here, which we're going to see again in the scriptures. 70, 10 times 7, the number, you can't get any better. It's the number of perfection times 10. Wonderful. Also, Judah's role brought out. He sold Joseph. Now he is the one who is bringing them back together again. He's arranging the reunion. He's going ahead. He's going first. And we had already seen his beautiful speech before Joseph, the leadership role that he's taking, the promise that he made to Jacob that Benjamin would come back. Judah featured, of course, very prominently here. We also see the emotion of Joseph at the reunion. We've seen some emotional scenes now from Joseph, and you can see why this would be so important in his life. Thinking, maybe I'll never see my father again. Now I see him. Maybe I'll never see my brothers again. Now I see them. Difficult circumstances, of course, when he was sold away. Made the best of the situation always. But this brings out the humanness of Joseph, that emotional connection. Why Goshen? Again, Goshen, this land that would have been to the north, kind of on the borderline too between Egypt and Canaan. So again, you can see the importance of this for the future when the Jewish people head back towards the promised land. And then, of course, the symbol of the shepherd who is in charge of the flock. So they are shepherds. This way, there's going to be no jealousy about farming land. Who's going to get the best land to farm? You can be up there in Goshen with your sheep, your animals. That's fine. We'll be down here with the Nile. There'll be no rivalry between the Egyptians and the Jewish people. So this will work out great. An amazing story, really, that we see unfold in chapter 46. A very emotional story, a wonderful story of covenant. And of course, who does this story go back to? It goes back to the first one who said yes to God, who was, of course, Father Abraham. And as we know, Father Abraham has many friends. Many friends has Father Abraham. I am one of them, and so are you. So let's all praise the Lord. Praise the Lord.